Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Chucky. So last time we had a Halloween party, and we had Chucky going around trick-or-treating as Hello Kitty. Because, alright. He gave an apple with a razor blade in it to this woman. She ended up biting into it and, bloodying up her mouth, as we saw. And it looks like the police are kind of getting wise to Chucky, but they're probably going to end up blaming our main character instead. That's just how it's how these things tend to go. But we see that there's a lot of issues going around with these characters, with what they're facing, with what they're thinking, and sometimes they're taking it out on others, such as the girl. I'm bad with names, but such as the girl taking it out on our main character by, for the Halloween party, dressing up as his dead father, and specifically in the process of being killed by the electricity and stuff as the costume, and that's really, really fucked up. But we did find out that she has some very heavy family issues herself. That doesn't make what she did all right, but it does explain her acting out. And I definitely don't think, as Chucky thinks, that she needs to die, that she deserves to die. I don't think that at all. We're going to have to see how this turns out, how this ends up going. Because there's a lot of hints at things to come, I feel. And I'm just very interested to see what route they take this all in. And what other characters may die, what other characters just end up becoming important or continuing their importance, such as the girl's little sister, who may have some form of developmental disorder, or something like autism or something. And just does not seem to care about Chucky being a living doll. But there's a lot to take into this. Will the aunt and uncle end up dying? And if they do, what happens to our main character and his cousin? Where would they live at that point? I mean, I'm sure they probably have other family somewhere, but just a lot of questions. A lot of questions that I have to deal with here as a viewer, because there's a lot that we don't know. Now, with this only being so many episodes this season, I think 8, they really do have to get through this story quickly. So I'm just wondering, how are they going to pace this, and what are they going to build to in the end? I assume Chucky's going to be defeated, but considering season 2 is already confirmed to be happening, how are they going to defeat him and then bring him back in a believable way? We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. No use, just worrying about it too much. Let us just get into this and hope for the best. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Maybe it's because I see so much potential in her as a character. Maybe it's because I genuinely believe she could be a phenomenally written, just exceptional example of a antagonist turned protagonist turned hero. Maybe it's because of that, but I really am so just anxious about that ending. Not finding out whether or not Lexi was killed by Chucky or not is like just kind of freaking me the hell out. But also, then there's the entire thing that the house is on fire. All these kids somehow don't notice, even though that big explosion of fire would cause a massive heat. Like, the heat would be just exceptional from that explosion of fire, and they would have felt it. I've been around fire, whether bonfires or whatnot, but I've actually been around a burning house um, once in my life, and it was, by the way, one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. Um, you could be a good distance away from the house, and you will still feel it, like very noticeably. Fire is very hot. I think people actually underestimate exactly how hot it can get and exactly how far reaching that heat can be. And when there's an explosion of fire like that, it pushes the heat outward. Those kids would have felt it. Whether or not they heard it because of the headphones or not does not matter. They would have felt it. So I'm a little perplexed by the fact that they didn't react at all. And the one kid even turned around and was like looking in that direction, but they had their eyes closed, and it's like, oh my god, if you just opened your fucking eyes. And of course I'm worried about Caroline, because it's like this poor girl is just this innocent girl who has like these kind of learning disabilities and all, and possible mental disorders and whatnot, and it's like she very much obviously doesn't deserve any of this. None of these kids do. Again, they're troublemakers. They're like bad influences, but they're not bad kids necessarily. Kids act out. Um, I did, but not necessarily in these ways. Obviously, different kids act out in different ways. I never did this kind of stuff. Um, for me, actually, the way I acted out a lot of time was actually stealing. Just being completely open and honest here. I shoplifted, I stole from friends, I stole from family. It was a way of acting out, and there's multiple reasons why I believe I did that stuff. And I got in trouble for it. Like, I got caught doing it multiple times. I got caught shoplifting multiple times. I got caught stealing from my parents multiple times. And some of it was just honestly kind of fucking dumb. Like, I would steal like trading cards from the store and stuff. And I tried to be sneaky about it. I tried to like go to the aisles where they were. I would like hide them in my coat. I would go into like the bathroom and open them there and all. And it's like, I was dumb. I was a dumb fucking kid. But like I would take from friends and stuff, and there were points where I was caught in it, and my parents even had me like talk to police officers and everything after certain circumstances. One time I was actually like caught in the store and everything, and I had to be brought back home by a cop, and got that entire thing happening. And yeah, a lot of issues. And like I said, there's many reasons I could probably name for probably why I was acting out that way and doing shit like that. And it's like, I'm not proud of that period in my life. Very much not. But kids act out, and a lot of times trying to reprimand them for it actually doesn't work. In fact, it actually sometimes leads them into doing worse. You need to like talk to your children and treat them with honestly dignity and respect. In order for it to get through their heads, you have to treat them like people. Seeing them as inferior and just like talking down to them and everything, and punishing them constantly doesn't work. In fact, a lot of that is the reasons why a lot of these kids act out in the first place. They want positive attention, and they don't know how to get it, so they're acting out just to get some kind of attention. And it's really sad. And I think that's definitely, honestly, what's going on with a lot of these characters. With Junior, with Lexi. Honestly, I think that they're acting out because of their living situations. Junior, like, his parents seem really nice, but it's maybe implied that they're not always around a lot. And with Jake being brought into the house, he feels like he might be, Junior feels like he might be ignored more and kind of like pushed aside more for his cousin's sake, and that upsets him. But he's shown time and time again he's not actually a bad kid by any means. Like, even just in this episode, him showing actual concern for Jake and telling Lexi, it's like, you went way too fucking far, you need to apologize to him. And he genuinely meant it. And yeah, part of that was also because, you know, it was his uncle. Like, yeah, even though he wasn't like close with his uncle at all, it's like there was still that connection. But I think he genuinely meant it, and I think he genuinely wanted Lexi to apologize to Jake. And Lexi, again, her genuine apology and thankfulness when Jake actually delivered Chucky, like, you could tell how genuine that was for her. She was actually really just kind of like won over almost. Like, she's like, even had to emphasize, like, oh, this doesn't mean we're friends or anything, but you could tell how thankful she was that he did that, because it's very clear that she loves her little sister. She loves Caroline, so she very much does not want anything to happen to her, and to see her upset and everything, and she wants, that's why she went over to Jake's in the first place, to give that half-assed apology that she gave at first. She did it solely for her sister, and that's why she stormed off so angrily when she didn't get Chucky at that point. So again, it's like the kind of reasons why I see Lexi as such a moldable character, as a character that they can work with so well and so much. And this is the kind of stuff I want to see explored in this series. And then we have, God, what is his name? Oh God. God, I don't know his name. Devin. Then we have Devin, who's looking into things, who's questioning things, and, you know, doing his kind of thing with all of the examination. He's even like listening to Jake's voice on repeat to try and like figure out what his inflections could mean and stuff, which is a really interesting thing. Like, Devin is very smart, clearly. And we see his mother, the police officer. It's just like, they're making her seem more and more unlikable. Like, at first, early, like in the first episode, and even kind of in the second, she was much more likable. But it's like, as it goes along, every time we see her, she gets more and more unlikable. Like, blaming Jake for this is so, honestly, kind of unreasonable. Like, she has no real evidence other than the connection with Chucky and the fact that these deaths have happened to people around him. It's like, oh, his father dies, then the house worker for his aunt and uncle die, and then this woman who has no connection to them at all, no connection to Jake at all, she dies because and the mother, Devin's mother, it just hears that this woman describes Chucky, and that's all that matters to her. And it's like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of connections here. There's very few, actually. It's not as airtight as you seem to think it is. And I applaud the teacher for standing up for Jake and just completely refusing to actually to actually talk to the officer about it. And then she even stuck up for him further by calling the parent-teacher conference to talk about the entire bullying that Lexi was doing towards him with the Halloween costume. Which it's like, by the way, it's just kind of fitting that these really shitty rich parents, one of them being the mayor, um, how they were basically like, when they're told that, oh, Lexi's been bullying Jake, they're basically like, oh, not our daughter. They literally had a not our daughter kind of situation, and it's like, oh my god, that's perfect. I hate it, but it's perfect. It's so fitting for these characters because they've very much been shown to be very shitty towards Lexi. Let's be honest. At the at the very least, they mistreat her in comparison to her sister, and honestly, they fawn over Caroline so much that they kind of are, what's the word? They don't pay any attention to Lexi because of it, and this is a part of the reason Lexi is acting out. But the entire not our daughter kind of thing, it's like, that thing's happened in real life, and it's the dumbest fucking thing when parents just assume that their child couldn't possibly do anything wrong for no real reason. It's just the idea of like, oh, it's our child, and it's like, we didn't raise our child to be like that, and it's like, fuck you. For that entire ideology, the entire idea of like basically thinking your children can't do anything wrong is just as bad as thinking your children do everything wrong. Both sides to that, both extremes are bad, but for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, it's so perfectly annoying to have them actually pull that. And then the teacher's like, I have video evidence, by the way, and that shut them up right the fuck quick. That really shut them the fuck up, and it's like, oh. And like, and the uncle, Junior's father, like, his reaction's like, that's my brother. And he looked really fucking offended. Like, he looked actually angry. Like, if not for the context surrounding it, I would have almost believed that he would have leapt on and attacked Lexi's parents at that moment. That is how genuinely angry he looked. The actor did a great job portraying that with just a stare. Like, that's all he really did. He said a few lines and he was glaring, but that's all that was needed. He got every bit of that pure anger through in that visual. It was so good. It was so damn good. And I like how this episode really focuses heavily on kind of this moral quandary that Jake is going through. Should he kill Lexi? Should he not? And at one point he even chases Lexi through the woods, but ends up finding Junior instead. And it's like, because they were for some reason jogging in the same outfit. It's a little weird to have matching jogging outfits. But yeah, and he looked like he was about to go for it, and like, he's getting dangerously close because of Chucky's prodding, and that's the problem here. Normally, like, of course Jake wouldn't do this kind of stuff, but because Chucky is prodding at him and making his emotions worsen, that's just exacerbating the problem. And it's honestly making Jake angrier than he actually is. Like, he's very angry, and he has a right to be. As I said in the reaction, anger is perfectly normal. Everyone faces it. Everyone gets angry. And hell, like I said in the reaction as well, everyone kind of thinks about that entire, like, I wish you were dead kind of mentality towards someone in their life. And it's usually, it's just out of anger, and it's just an emotional kind of outburst, even if it's just in their head. They don't actually mean it. Like, it's just kind of just this pure rage that's flowing in you, and it's all about how you act upon that determines how mentally stable and healthy you handle that kind of thing. Because yeah, there's been many occasions where I've been so angry at someone where, yeah, I've wished they were dead. I've thought to myself the world would be a better place without them. Of course, I've thought that. But I've never been even slightly willing to act on it. Because why would I be? That's horrible. That's evil. It's absolutely disgusting to even consider actually acting upon that. Having those thoughts is normal, but you have to know how to control yourself, basically. And it's terrible to have to deal with that sometimes, but you do, and you have to reel yourself back in. And honestly, Jake would have been much better at that. Jake would have reeled himself back in probably fairly easily. Because as we know him, he's actually a really good moral person. And he would not have gone even to as far as he did without, without that prodding, without Chucky influencing him. And of course, no one's going to believe him, except if she did survive, Lexi. At this point, she's the only one who would believe him, except maybe Caroline, but she doesn't fully grasp and comprehend everything with this, so unfortunately she may not be the best witness in that regard. But if Lexi does survive this, she would be another witness to this. She would have seen Chucky moving and trying to kill her. So that's another reason I kind of hope she survives. So Jake actually has someone else in his corner who knows. And it's like Devin is definitely sticking up for him, especially against his mother, and that's great, and I love that. And I actually really do ship them and want them to actually get together, because I think it's cute. But while he's sticking up for him, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know all this about Chucky. So it's like, what is he going to do to help? Lexi would be a completely different situation in regards to this. So yeah, I really find that idea kind of fascinating. And then there's this poor fucking kid who Chucky kills at the party. This kid who, yeah, again, was acting out, was being kind of a bad influence on others, but he wasn't a bad kid. Nothing about him like stuck out as like, oh, this kid is like a terrible, shitty person or anything. Like, he didn't deserve this. He's just some dumb kid acting out, and Chucky wasn't even like going after him and just killed him anyways, just because he was there. It's like he cuts him once, thinking he was going to be Lexi, and it's like, oh, you're not who I was going for. Oh well, let's fucking kill you anyway. And it's like, why? I get that Chucky is just completely psychotic and everything. I understand that. Like, this episode also makes that very clear with the backstory part, which I'll talk about in a second. But at the same time, it just seems kind of unnecessary, really. But again, I get that he's psychotic, and let's talk about that backstory. So, we see through backstory from Chucky telling this to Jake about his first kill. When Chucky was a kid, he definitely had some disturbing thoughts. He seemed to want to kill this girl in his neighborhood who was at his birthday party, who I guess was just kind of annoying. But during this time, this all took place while there was a serial killer going throughout the neighborhood and just killing a shit ton of people like crazy. One night, he wakes up and finds that his father has been violently murdered by the serial killer. His mother brings him upstairs to save and protect him while the serial killer gives chase. Eventually, the killer opens the closet door to find them, but by that point, Chucky had killed his father. Charles Lee had killed his father. Charles Lee Ray, whatever the exact name is. He killed his mother with this little knife that he picked up while they were entering the room and everything, which I did notice, obviously. Which actually caught me by surprise, though. I swear I thought he was going to kill the serial killer. Like, I felt like everything was going up to that. Like, his first kill was going to be against a serial killer to protect his mom or just his parents in general or whatever. And then he was going to end up in the creepiest way liking it so much that it just kind of stuck with him, and eventually he started killing more. That's what I was thinking. Instead, he just brutally, as this young kid, kills his mother while they're in the closet hiding, and gets kind of praised by Senpai Serial Killer. Which, by the way, I hate that I just said that. But he gets praised by the serial killer and just told, you gotta watch yourself and do things right. And oh my. For a second there, I was wondering if it was going to come. It almost felt like it was not going to actually come out, but excuse me. But yeah, he gets praised, and it kind of bolsters him, and it's just like, he was just kind of mentally disturbed from that young of an age, and there's a lot of specifics about why that could happen or whatnot, but it's like, it's really sad, and it's like, it basically gives the idea within this episode, and Chucky himself basically says it. It goes by the idea that some people are just born evil, that some people are just born to be killers and stuff. And this is something, by the way, I have, like, in 100%, I very much disagree with. Obviously, it serves the story and it serves the character of Chucky, but the idea that a person is born evil, born a killer and everything, is complete bullshit. It's just complete, utter fucking bullshit. No one is born evil. No one's born good either. A person's natural state is neutrality, and they learn the differences between good and evil from their surroundings. They're influenced by family, by school, by friends, by what they watch on television. All this kind of stuff. Just, it influences their minds. And different kids, based on different factors, can have their minds influenced in different ways, and certain things will stick with them differently. And in Chucky's case, in Charles's case, I feel like he probably had some kind of mental issue that was probably at that point obviously undiagnosed, and that he probably heard all this stuff about the serial killer and everything, and for some reason his mind latched on to that, and for some reason equated it with being either cool or interesting or something he wanted to be. For whatever reason, I cannot obviously explain what would have caused that kind of mindset, or what kind of mindsets would go into that kind of situation. But yeah, it was probably something similar to that. That maybe even his parents weren't giving him, like, the proper amount of, like, right versus wrong kind of talk and everything. He wasn't learning enough of that from his parents, so he just kind of got influenced by the wrong side. But the idea of just being born evil is, again, it's bullshit. It's just not true. You are, as a child, influenced by your surroundings. Again, by parents, school, television, all this different stuff. And it can influence different people in different ways. Using myself as an example, because I tend to do that. I was very much influenced in a very negative way growing up to be honestly a very bigoted and negative person towards a lot of different types of people. It was how I was raised. And a lot of factors contributed to that. Yeah, it was kind of all of the above. Family, school, things I saw on television and in the media in general. A lot of it influenced me to be all kinds of terrible stuff. And being a kid when 9/11 happened did not help either, by the way, especially with how people, especially people around me, talked about people of color and especially Middle Eastern people during that time. It very much led me into a very bad part of my life that I am very much not proud of. I became very bigoted towards a lot of people of color, very bigoted towards people who are queer, and just so many other kinds of people who just weren't like me, basically, because of everything around me teaching me to be like that. And luckily, I was able to unlearn that kind of stuff. As an adult, a lot of people are able to unlearn the things that they were raised into believing and raised into just becoming. Not everybody always is, but it is possible to unlearn that kind of stuff to become better than how you were raised. But it's no small thing. And it's very much how you are raised that will influence a lot of how you are growing up. And again, it led me to some bad things. It led me to do some bad things. And I really hate it. I really hate who I used to be. Like, I actively get angry thinking about who I used to be and the things I used to believe. All because I was raised like that. So I don't believe that anyone is born evil or even good. I believe that people are born neutral, and it's your influences in your life, from whatever sources they may come from, that determine what kind of path you go down. And it's not just like it's not just outside forces either. Sometimes it's inside forces. Sometimes it's mental disabilities and learning disorders and stuff that influence how you perceive things. And people who go through that need legitimate help. And not saying that out of any like cruel or negative way. They genuinely need help to better themselves and to get past that kind of thinking and that kind of just inward influencing that's beyond their control otherwise. So it's like it's a really tough situation and is different for every person. And we need to acknowledge that things just need to be taken more seriously when it comes to raising kids the right way. And part of that is we can't just be ignorant of our kids' needs like Lexi is in this. We can't push aside our kids for others like with Junior. We need to show, I mean, again, I have no problem with the aunt and uncle showing love to Jake and everything after what happened, but it's like they can't just be ignoring their own son because of it, or even just not paying as much attention to him. You need to be able to share that attention and that love. You need to be able to raise your kids properly. You need to teach them right from wrong, and you need to make sure the other influences they go through also help enforce that kind of thing. But you also can't be too aggressive or mean, or just honestly, you can't be a jackass to your kids. because it doesn't help in the matter. It actually makes things worse. I'm not saying you can't punish them for doing bad things. No, you definitely can, but like stuff like physical punishment has been proven not to work and has been proven to actually make things worse in a lot of cases. And then just constantly yelling at and berating your kids doesn't work either. You need to, again, sit them down and talk to them, stuff like that. Be there for them and explain to them why they did what was wrong, what they did was wrong, and go through that. And just, you have to show them love and respect in order for them to fully grasp it. Just berating them and like talking down to them and shit isn't going to help. So yeah, it's like, it's a tough situation. And honestly, it's just, with what these characters are going through, I genuinely want to see their character growth. So I really hope that Lexi isn't dead. And I really want to see her and Junior continue to grow as this goes along. And I want to see just all of this that happens. And what's going to happen after this situation with Chucky? He can't just go back to being with Jake, being there with Jake, right? That's not going to work out now. And Jake, like, there's no fucking way Devin's mother is going to be able to pin this on Jake. There's no fucking way. Nothing about this can be tied to Jake outside of Chucky just being in the house. There is no way to make Jake the bad guy in this situation. And if Devin's mom really tries to, I'm going to be kind of pissed. Because there's just nothing there to make it seem like he did any of this. You cannot tie him to burning this down, to hurting anyone in the house. It's not possible to do that at this point. So at this point, if she tries to do it, it's pure bias, basically. And just being a shitty person. But then again, I wouldn't put that past her at this point. But either way, yeah, this was another really good, like, investing episode. I was definitely still just as into it. And again, I'm obviously clearly excited to see where this goes. I mean, I've been talking for over 30 minutes just in these post thoughts about it. So I'm very much excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see possible developments if Lexi is alive. I really hope she is. I'm excited to see how these other characters grow and just, again, how this all wraps up. Because next week's episode is halfway through the season. There's 8 episodes, right? So next week's episode 4, will be halfway through. And it's like, how are we going to go through this? How are we going to pace this out right? Because at this point, it almost feels like it's closing in on the ending. But we're, like, only just under halfway through. So it's like, how much further is this going to go? What else is going to be brought into play? There's a lot of questions with this. But again, I guess we're going to have to find out. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Chucky? And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.